Welcome back to the Off the Tools podcast. Yes, I know it's been a while. That's the main reason for this podcast today, actually, because firstly, I want to just say a massive thank you to everybody that has downloaded, subscribed, listened over the last sort of 4 to 5 years that I've been doing this podcast. It has been an amazing journey. I've got to meet and speak to people from all walks of life, from multimillionaires to startup businesses. It has been absolutely fantastic. So thank you. Without you guys listening on the other side or watching, obviously the show doesn't do anything. So that's the first message I want to say today, is just a massive, massive thank you to all of you. The second important thing that I want to talk about today is today marks a relaunch of not just Off the Tools podcast, but Off the Tools as a brand. Off the Tools over the last 5 to 6 years, has gone so far beyond what I ever dreamt it would be. It started off as a bit of a hobby project. I just enjoyed talking. I enjoyed helping people, and it's now turned into one of the UK's leading business coaching, support, system building companies in the UK. So again, I'm hugely grateful. I get to do what I love every single day, working with tradesmen all over the UK, helping them build a business and build a life that they want. So we're relaunching it because we're still working on how it was 5 years ago, and times have changed. There is a massive, massive need, even more so now than ever, for what we do at Off the Tools. So as part of the relaunch, anyone that has been a keen listener will have listened to the last 2 episodes with Andrew Jones from Twin Sun Heating. He has been probably my standout student over the last few years. And it was a no-brainer to bring him into the business as a partner. So Andy is now going to be joining the team as one of the coaches. He's going to be helping me help tradesmen all over the UK. So please, everybody, can we welcome Andrew Jones, lead coach at Off the Tools. How you doing, Andy?
I'm good, mate. How are you?
I'm very, very well, mate. Very well. Obviously, repping the gear as always. Unfortunately, I've dropped the ball. I've got a Starbucks coffee, but I have got my hat on. So anyone that hasn't listened to the 2 big long episodes before this, Andy, just introduce yourself to the listeners. I'm sure most will know who you are, but obviously we will be getting new listeners. So yeah, just tell us a little bit about who you are and what you're bringing to Off the Tools now.
So yeah, I'll try and condense the last couple of episodes down that kind of went into depth about my background or my journey, if you will. So gas engineer, 12 years, spent some time out of the game for a couple of years, which doing a different business, got some training in business, and it was actually in the property sector. And the standout thing for me for that, couple of things. One was the mindset of people in there when it comes to money, playing with big numbers. And the other thing was a big use of systems, software, outsourcing, etc. So I made a decision to start a business and take the same approach, but to what's arguably the most behind business sector in the UK, probably in the world, but especially in the UK, which is the trade business. Too much scrap paper on the dashboard in the van, all that sort of thing. And then grew a business at quite some pace, obviously with your guidance as well, over it's about 2 3/4 years now, and have grown that and outsourced it. And then obviously what we came to realize between us is that the way I've grown it, the speed it's grown to a level where it takes most guys the conventional way without coaching maybe 20 years to get to that point. And then obviously things have snowballed from that. On top of that, I've outsourced that business now. So there's there's a team in the office, we've got a lot of software running, and that has then allowed me to get more involved with Off the Tools. And then obviously what we found was a lot of guys were coming to me or you individually because of our opposing skill sets on certain things, and it's just seemed like the logical thing to do.
No, it definitely did, and I'm super excited. Not only from, obviously the biggest thing that you did was take action. So you are a shining example to the lads that are currently in the group, but you're also a shining example to those sitting on the side listening in or watching this. So for me, it was a no-brainer to bring you into the business, because you've walked the walk now. You've been through where a lot of guys are. For anyone that hasn't listened, Andy started basically from zero. I think he had like 15 customers when he comes off the tools sort of 2.5 years ago or whenever it was. And since that day, he's listened, he's learned, not just from me, from other guys in the group, from other sources, but most importantly, he's taken action. And anyone that is already in Off the Tools will know that Andy is a bit more of the firmer hand between me and him, so Andy is going to be, if you do decide to ever work with us or you get involved with Off the Tools, you'll see this side of Andy. He doesn't take any prisoners, and I feel that is a much needed bit of an accountability that the group and Off the Tools as a whole needed. How important is taking action to you, Andy?
Yeah, so glad you've raised the point. Obviously, that's a personal achievement for me. The fact that it was a virtually net zero. So that time as a tradesman, the gas engineer time was actually spent working for emergency boiler breakdown companies. So it wasn't really that I had a pre-existing business. It was all subcontracting work, well paid, admittedly, and it produced a comfortable life. Well paid, but it came at a sacrifice of going out various hours, etc. So yeah, I didn't actually have a pre-existing customer base, and the guys that are looking to elevate themselves that already have that are obviously in a much stronger position. But to somewhat answer your question a bit more, this is a very slow moving industry, both the industry itself and the nature of a customer facing physical interaction business where you or one of your engineers needs to go out on site and do some work. As a result, you need to take the utmost action fast as possible, constantly moving forward. Otherwise, it's going to take so long to get to where you want to get to that you're just going to waste so many years mulling over things, taking your time. So even though I mentioned I've got to where some lads take 20 years to get to in 2.5 years, to me, that's still not very fast from a business perspective. If you had an online business, whatever that might be, you could scale in a year to have a 7-figure business, or maybe even less time than that. So operating in a slow industry, it has to be action all the time, constant action. Not spending time, we're wondering if we'll do that, or I'll tell you what, I'll do that after winter, or I'll maybe next year I'll do that, and there's too much waiting around. I think that's where the firmer hand comes from, and it's not. It comes from a good place, because I want to see people succeed anyway. Another reason, obviously, why I've come to where I am in Off the Tools, but I know myself that I don't want people to look back and think, I wish I'd done that a bit sooner. And that's what most guys in the group who've reached a stronger position tend to say, that I wish I'd done that sooner. It's like having an admin person, for example. That's one of probably the biggest step forward you can make in a trade business, to remove all that weight going from sole trader to, even if it's just your wife or your mum or a sister, whatever it might be. That is the biggest step forward, to just relieve that pressure off you. But so many guys hang on for that. Maybe not yet. And yeah. So yeah, action solves most things. Is a common phrase said in personal development space, and it is true. It is very,
Yeah,
very true.
yeah, definitely. Yeah, so well, first, just welcome Andy. So Andy is now officially part of Off the Tools. He is part of the team. He's now the co-host of this podcast. So it's not just little old Wayne sitting here on his own all the time now. So we're super excited to sort of really kickstart this. And obviously, the time of year it is, if you're listening to this as we launch it, we're just heading to the end of 2025. With the new year coming up, we thought this was about the right sort of time to really, really push down, get our message out to the world. But what are we going to be doing, Andy? What are some of the things that we're going to be trying to help and support people with over the next few sessions?
So just to go back a little bit to what you were saying before about the change in the dynamic now that there's two of us, I think ultimately that's going to be the big shift moving forward. And again, when you're out on the tools, the same thing applies. Two heads are always better than one. So again, we've got the same beliefs, but different angles on that, perhaps, and different viewpoints. But we're remarkably similar, aren't we? But we have different ways of doing things. So there's going to be, so on top of that, there's also then just greater capacity to do more things. Yeah. So rather than operating on that standard coaching level that we've been done previously, there's now multiple levels of coaching available to people. So some people might not quite like the group structures, or some people might thrive in the group structures. And so we've got, obviously, we have more capacity for the one-to-one stuff. There's also more sharing the load, I would say. So we have, for the lads on the middle tier, let's call it, of our coaching, we have a coaching and accountability session every Friday morning, which again, just leading on from what you were saying, Wayne, about taking that action being so important. It's easy to get the advice and get the coaching, but if you're not being held accountable, then you're not doing anything with it. So that's an important one. And then we've had really, really good feedback from retreats in the past, haven't we? So what we've done in the past, for those that have missed it on previous conversations, we run a 2-day mastermind and retreat. Next year it'll be done every quarter, and it will be structured around the philosophies that we teach in Off the Tools. And that is basically a full day of mastermind in a relaxed classroom setting, let's call it. And then in the evening, we do some, let's say, pushing the boundaries a little bit. So we do some of the ice bath stuff, some breath work, and then have some social time as well. And we'll have a meal together and log fire kind of thing, and just network, but in a relaxed kind of setting, really, among peers. It can be a lonely game for a lot of the lads that are out on the tools on their own. And it's a nice opportunity for stuff like that. So we've had really, really good feedback from that. So that's going to be a big focus for next year. And then I'm trying to think what else. We will be launching an elite level mastermind as well next year, which will be an invite only one. And that's for guys who really, really want to hit those, not only the bigger numbers, but elevate their business. So some guys might be doing well already, but maybe a bit too dragged into the business. So they might already be doing 7 figures, multiple 7 figures, but they feel like they're working 7 days a week kind of thing. And that'll be about moving that business forward, so you're not so intrinsically involved in it. So outsourcing and scaling and systems automations and things like that.
Yeah, on systems and automations as well. Bringing Andy into the fold is going to help massively with that as well, because obviously we currently, we help people with ServiceMate, we help people with Sales Lion. Andy is the whiz kid on a software called Quotient. So we now sort of added that into the arsenal of things that we do. We can do websites, but by having two of us on the team now, it has just opened up the capacity. You know, I've ran at pretty much full capacity for 4 years and just sort of been stuck at that level. So I'm super excited to sort of get that next wave of people, get those people that are out there that need our help, need our support in not just the coaching, but in the systems, automation side of things as well. What about the podcast? Where are we going to go with the podcast? So this is like a live discussion between me and Andy. Obviously, we have briefly discussed it, but shall we share a little bit about our plans for what we're going to be doing on the show?
Yeah, so we're gonna do some. This is probably handy for the time of year when a lot of lads are out in the vans a lot more and they've got some time to kill when they're driving. But we're gonna do a bit of a mixture of long form and short form. But we're gonna really target, let's call it, the hot topics. So, pricing, what software, like you've just mentioned, what software to use, where to use it, when to use it. AI, we've got a session planned on AI, so that's going to be an interesting one. Growth, outsourcing. I was just saying, I think that's one of my strengths again, which is outsourcing. And scaling that team so that there's lads that love being on the tools. We've got lads in the group that still love being on the tools. They've grown a business, so they don't have to do anything else but be on the tools. We've got lads who want to do that. We've got lads who want to be off the tools completely and be at the back end, because that's where their skill set is. So we've got not only have we got the core strategies that we teach in off the tools anyway, we've got some additional podcasts on what I would refer to as hot topics, really. So things that are getting asked in the group. Pricing, again, this is to just go back to what Wayne was saying before, and the reason he was saying I'm a firmer hand. Pricing is one of the things I'm a firmer hand on. So I strongly believe probably every single tradesman in the UK is undercharging for what they are worth, and because of that, I am always striving to teach the lads to always push the pricing. Yeah. So we've got I'll not go too much into it now. We've got a full session on that. So it's tied in terms of the more value you bring, the more you need to charge. And I think a lot of guys in this industry get too caught up on the work carried out on site being the value and in its entirety, and not looking at the bigger picture. I would argue that the work carried out on
site. I can't wait for that one. There's a lot to dive into that, isn't there? One thing that I'm going to spring on Andy now, because it's just something that I was meant to tell him about before, but haven't. I also want to make it very, very clear to everybody watching or listening that you can ask questions. Okay, so yes, you're not sitting in the room, but you can message me or Andy, email us. So our email address is nice and simple. It's either andy@offthetools.co.uk or wayne@offthetools.co.uk. Drop us an email, ask us questions, because as we progress with these sessions, I want to bring in the listeners, questions at the end of sessions to make sure that we are directly helping people, not only just sort of helping in general. I want people to reach out, ask questions, and then me and Andy can work through those questions, as we build out the more sessions. So please don't just watch or listen silently. Be part of it, participate in it, and you will get better value. You will also get some support from me and Andy as well as part of that. So yeah, email or message us on socials just for that point. Okay, Andy, so this was only ever going to be one of the short sort of discussions. Is there anything else you want to say to the audience that are watching and listening before we close off for the day?
No, just echoing what you were saying then. Obviously, this podcast needs to be fueled by what people want to hear about. There's always lots of questions in any business, but especially in a trade related business where there's so many nuances and variables. Yeah, hit us with the questions, and we will build the podcasts around the questions and the answers.
Right. All right. Excellent. Well, here is the end of the new episode 1. So I'm going to have to segment it into season 2, I guess, because all my other previous episodes have been classed as season 1. And here's to the first of many, Andy. Cheers, mate.
Let's go.